Welcome everybody to this program, Inspiring Women Indian Faces. This is a program which we started in DME Media School in 2021, and this is the third edition of this program. Normally the format that we follow in this program is that whichever book we are including as part of the program, there is an interview with the author or the editor of the book, followed by interaction with all distinguished guests who are there in the program. And since today's program is based on the book, which is Balancing the Wisdom Tree Anthology of FTI's Women Alumni. This is the book which I can show you. This book has been published by Publications Division, and it has been edited by Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, who is a known name in media education and filmmaking, and who herself is an alumni of Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. So our whole discussion will be centered on this book and what all has been included in this book, and what exactly is the importance of this endeavor that Dr. Gauri Chakravarti has done. So Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, welcome to this show which is Inspiring Women Indian Faces, and coming straight to this book, because it's a landmark work that you have done. And since Film and Television Institute of India is one of the most rich institutes in the country, which has produced number of filmmakers, but when it comes to women filmmakers, we are really eager to know as to what all has been done, what kind of women filmmakers have been produced by this institution. And since you took up this huge task of compiling everything together, so my first question to you will be as to what prompted you to come out with this idea that such a compilation of all the women FTI alumni should be done, and what exactly was the significance of this whole effort according to you?
Thank you so much, Professor Saxena, for inviting me for this conversation. I think the book is just the beginning of many such conversations that should happen ideally about women in the media and entertainment industry, especially the filmed entertainment, because there are so many developments happening in that sector as we speak. Going to the premise of the book, FTII was celebrating its 6 decades, and some of the seniors, my seniors, suggested to the then director that there should be a publication which recognizes the contribution of the women graduates who have kind of graduated from the portals of this very esteemed institution. At that point, the structure or the content or how this book will look was not on the table, but some alumni were contacted to see if they would have a vision or an idea which can be implemented. I was one of them, and since my PhD research was on representation of women on screen, I had faced a lot of, I would say, difficulty barricading when it came to, really digging literature on who is imagining these new women characters post 2010. So a lot of it was rooted in my struggle as a PhD scholar to look for data, to look for both quantitative and qualitative data, which confirms, which reaffirms that women are participants.
No, but then you refer to this quantitative and the qualitative part, which is, so close to every researcher.
Yes.
And since not only in PhD, in this book also you have dealt with that area. So what exactly you feel the crux of this book, it's the qualitative part or the quantitative part that you have?
So that's exactly the premise that I gave to the director, that in case we are celebrating women from FTII, it should not be a celebratory work of only 10 to 12 women who the world knows. We know that Jaya Bhaduri Bachchan is from FTI, Shabana Azmi ji is from FTI, but there are so many women out there who have contributed so much that I wanted to make it wholesome. So the argument then was that either it is all of us or it is none of us. Yeah. And by saying that, I'd almost opened Pandora's box, because 60 years of legacy
Yeah.
and then to trace the numbers and to identify who has graduated in the last 6 decades. So that is how the journey started.
So what exactly is the total number of the women graduates from FTI right from the inception? I think that is started in 1963 until date. What
So
exactly is the
FTI was
number?
established in 1960, and we are very blessed to have the first person who's graduated, a
Yeah.
woman alum, Parvati Menonji.
Yeah, we will be talking to
Yes.
her also as soon as we finish this part of the interview.
So, sir, I didn't have a sense of numbers because when it comes to archiving in India, I think in terms of women filmmakers, I would say it is scattered, and maybe there are bits and pieces. And I wanted to really, create something which helps future researchers and scholars. So I got a list from the FTI Registrar's office, and you can imagine, I'm sure if young people can imagine 60 years of a list,
Yeah.
which has moved through different hands, different administrators. So, it was this very sketchy idea of how many will be. When I started off, I did not know myself. As a team, we didn't know. But today, one can easily say that about 503 women have graduated from 1960 to 2016. And one could have taken the book to 2019 as well, but since the convocation had not happened, though we had the data, we refrained from it.
Were you able to contact all of them?
I have such fascinating stories to share. For example, like Parvati ma'am, there is Radha Saluja. To me, she is also legendary. So I'd only heard of Renu Saluja, who's known as one of the biggest editors, and she's an inspiring story in herself. And we had heard about her when we were at FTI. But never did I know that Renu Saluja entered the Film Institute because her sister was also there. So, coming to the question of how did I reach out, so I almost, because I'm a member of the Alumni Association in Delhi, I knew 7-8 people who I am in close contact with. And one of them was the mentor for the book, Reena Mohan. And Reena suggested that I talk to some few people. And so a chain was formed. It was almost as if I was weaving a web. And this was a web of 8, then 16, then 420, then maybe 500.
So do you compile the data from whichever sources you got all that information, or you also interviewed some people?
So the ideal stance was that whatever we carry in the book comes from the person themselves. So we circulated, through digital technology, a Google form, went into networks, and thought that people will share their bio note. The book has 3 segments. So there's this very interesting segment in the beginning, which is conversations. Then there are some memoirs, and then there is the bio notes, which had everybody. And unfortunately, not everybody gave us their personal information. So then the hunt started. So first there was vetting of a list. There may be names that may not be, valid, or there may be a name which sounds like a woman, but actually may turn out to be a male alumni. And I also found cases like that. Because certain names are unisex, like in certain communities. So then how does one differentiate? So we got information from this Google form that everybody filled, and then for those that I couldn't or who didn't reach out to us, we started, really searching the World Wide Web or platforms which carry background of filmmakers, and that's how we were able to.
How much time it took to you right from inception of the idea to the execution of the whole thing, and till the time this book came out?
So the first mail that I received was in November 2020, and the book finally was released in March 2022.
Yeah,
And
almost 2 years.
About 18 months, but about 16 hours every day on the book for 18 months. That's how my life looked.
And how this whole publication thing moved in, I mean, how this publication division roped in into the whole thing, and how did they agree that they will be publishing the book?
So the idea that, initially only was vetted by Mr. Bhupendra Kenthola, who was the director of FTI at that point in time. And it was very clear from the beginning that because FTI is part of the Ministry of I&B, the book will be published by a government institution. And so publication division from the beginning was part of the project.
Yeah, and the most important thing, whatever number of women you have showcased, projected in this book, would you like to name some of them or their work or your experience of interacting with them? Anything which you can tell us, any anecdote, the experience that you had while doing this whole exercise?
So I would start with Parvati ma'am, because I had met Parvati ma'am at a alumni function, but in my meeting I hadn't realized that she was the benchmark to a lot of other things. So one of the anecdotes that I clearly remember is that there was no hostel for the girls actually, because that whole probably the vision, or probably this notion that women will also come into the Film Institute must have been a very organic journey, because all these students out here, just imagine you're going into an institution, but the institution is not well prepared to host you as a hosteler. How will you feel? So to me, that was a very important journey, to understand how Jaikar Bungalow became the hub of the girls in the beginning. Jaikar Bungalow is a building close to FTI. Again, Radha Saluja to me was a discovery. I may have seen her films when I was a child, but I could never fathom that she will turn out to be such a resource of so much information. She was in mainstream, cinema at that point in time in the 70s and early 80s, and she gave anecdotes, some of which I can't even reveal. It was so personal.
Yeah, can you also tell something about Shabana Azmi, or I mean any such stalwart who passed out from FTI and you interacted or you collected data from them?
Shabana Azmi ji actually wrote the foreword for the book, and the time when I kind of reached out to her, what is beautiful about FTI is also the instant connect that you have for your alumni, and so she was kind enough to write the foreword, and I think it resonated. The premise of the book, being a veteran that she is, it immediately resonated with her. And I'd really also like to read what she's written as one of the first paras which you encounter when you read the book, and it almost summarizes the larger objective of creating a document like this. So Shabana ji starts by saying, as I walked into FTI in the early 70s as a student, I was struck by how few women I found on the campus. Except for the acting department and the other departments, all the other departments were marked by the absence of female students. There were not even a handful of female trainers or female faculty either. When I entered the film industry, it was no different. It was as though there was a tacit agreement in society that film was primarily the domain of men.
Yeah, and my last question will be on this only, then we will move to the audience and interact with them. What difference you find from the time when the entry of Parvati ma'am was there in FTI, and as we all know, as you were referring, that was completely a man-dominated area, and now in 2023, what difference do you find from the gender perspective, from the emancipation of women perspective, from that time to this time, focusing on FTI and the filmmaking?
So I think that's a very valid question, and in fact very pertinent in today's age and time. One of the chapters, which is one of the closing chapters of the conversation, is between two alumni who are now faculty at FTII. And what is very, I think contemplation needs to happen around this, that though there has been a significant increase in the number of girls in certain batches, at the end of the day, the women who have walked into these altars, you know, in the hallowed spaces of this film training institution, there are absences of voices. So a lot of the girls or the women who are trained come from a middle class background, and you know, they come from a specific a social strata. But these faculty are discussing how we are missing on marginalized voices and training of women from the margins. Although in terms of the boy students, the male students, there may be a more diversity that one sees. Also the constant of lesser women in the technical courses remains a continuum, and this also bothers many of us, who are part of either the industry or academia or related field.
Thank you, Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, to talk to us and reveal so many insights, so many new things about this book, which is Balancing the Wisdom Tree, Anthology of FTI Women Alumni, which is definitely, undoubtedly a landmark work, and this kind of documentation will go a long way as far as its academic importance is concerned, as far as its research importance is concerned, and also as far as when we talk about the women empowerment and women taking all those places which were forbidden for them earlier and coming in the mainstream of the filmmaking, and we are looking forward to have to see a better future tomorrow. Thank you. Welcome everybody to this program, which is a Studio 62 based interactive show inspiring women Indian faces. We started this program 2 years back, and this year our program is focused on FTI alumni, the women alumni who have passed out from this prestigious institution for the last 60 years. And since this book has been edited by Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, so we requested her to bring all those alumni to us in DME who could manage to come, and then we have this kind of interactive program. And we are lucky, we are really fortunate to have the senior most woman alumni of FTI, Parvati Menonji, who is a legend in this area, in the area of films and filmmaking. And we are also lucky to have other distinguished alumni of FTI, Sakshi Gulati and Nitasha Kapahi. So I welcome everybody in this show, and also the audience, the students of DME Media School who are part of this show. So moving forward, we will try to know more about these women, though all of us who are into the area of filmmaking or even in media education, we read a lot about the women who have passed out from FTI and who have really made a mark. And as I already said, the senior most woman who has come out from FTI, that too in the early 1960s, she was there in FTI, and till that time nobody was thinking that women can enter in an area which we all know today, the filmmaking. Nowadays, the kind of technology we have, everybody is a filmmaker. But think about 60 years ago, what kind of atmosphere was there, and it was like, as we talk about the breaking the ice. So Parvati Menon has actually broken that ice and made herself into an area which was considered a foray of men. So Parvati ji, welcome to this program. And as we have heard a lot about you, I myself have read this whole book, Balancing the Wisdom Tree, and I got to know many new things. But I would like to know from you only in this program as to what prompted you, what inspired you to enter into an area which was unthinkable for women till that time, and how did you get admission there, and what all actually happened, and also on the family front, whether your parents were very forthcoming that you enter into such area.
Well, let me go back a little bit. I'm from Bangalore, and as a college student, we all used to cut classes to go and see the movies because in Bangalore, all the theaters were on one side and the colleges were the opposite side. Many of the movies I saw were not very seriously made, rather with a flippant attitude of time pass, so to say. And I had a way of looking at those little gaps in it. And then I started writing about it in a very breezy manner, in a lighter way. And when it started getting published, I became very popular and I became sort of, a legitimized cut class, because, I was getting a column to write about and getting a little payment. And for a student, it's a very great feel,
But then the students can get this idea that even class bunking is a good thing even today.
No, but your times are different. You can see it all on your mobile. So in our times, it was a little different, more challenging. And I come from a very liberal family. And seeing all these movies made me write articles, and I wanted to know a little bit more. Till then, I had absolutely no idea that there was a lot of technique and technology involved in making a movie. I thought it all came ready-made because we were seeing it in a huge theatre right from kidhood. And it just so happened, to cut a long story short, I was in Pune. My eldest brother was there in Dehu. And I saw this advertisement of the Film Institute calling for applicants. And I thought, let me go and have a look, because I used to write about the cinema all in a lighter vein and so on and so forth. So I said, let me go ahead and have a look. And I was lucky enough when I went to the Film Institute, which was once Prabhat Studios, Shantaranji's. The person I ran into was the then principal, Mr. Jagat Murari. And probably he was rather surprised to see a woman, a lady student, I guess. So he smiled and he said, hello, what can I do? So I said, I'm from Bangalore, just I saw your ad and I want to see. He said, why don't you join? I said, oh, can I? He said, yeah. And I said, what can I do? He said, you can be a director, writing, script writing and directing was a course. I was zapped. I said, okay, I never knew till then that you could learn about filmmaking. And he was such a nice person. He showed the entire organization to me, the institute, and he said, apply. I applied, and there I was.
So getting admission was easy then?
No, we had a written test, all in a written test. We had a viva, and we had a interview, and probably I blushed my way through.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great thing that you entered in such a prestigious institution. Otherwise, the society would have been deprived of whatever you would have done during these 6 decades.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, talking to another alumni of FTI, we have Nitasha Kapahi with us, who entered into a different area. Normally, even today, we don't find that women are, even if there are more number of women in filmmaking, but then in an area of cinematography, we can find people in writing or direction or even editing, but that's completely some way off track area. But then she took up that area. So Nitasha, what prompted you to enter this area, to take admission in FTI and taking a decision that you will be making your career in such an area?
I think with cinematography, I never thought of it as like something that is a man's profession until I went to FTI actually. Because I always took photographs when I was in school, and I was like, I love taking photographs, and then I started taking videos. I enjoy doing this, so how can I do more of this? And that's when I applied to FTI, and when I reached there is when I realized that how in a lot of other programs there were other girls, like there was in editing you had a equal number, in direction you had only sound and camera were the 2 batches, where camera had only 2 of us and sound just had 1. And you didn't feel that much like compared to what Parvati ma'am felt like probably that time, because there were so many other girls in the institute already. But when you were in your classes, you always felt like you had to prove something, that, oh, can you carry that light? Can you carry that camera? Because they are heavy, big things,
Yeah.
So you would probably think that you always felt that you had to prove that, oh, I need to carry that light myself so that the light boys give me respect.
So were you under pressure because of this, or the other women who were there in FTI, they were under pressure that they have to prove that they are better or equal to men?
I think that comes automatically in society when you are there and you see that you are already a minority. The pressure is already there as a minority where you feel it automatically. You give it to yourself even though it's not there, but you automatically give it to yourself that I need to prove more because we are just the two of us.
Yeah.
So you feel that, oh, the guys are there. The guys are not saying anything. Nobody ever said anything. But you always feel that, oh, why are the light boys so pally with the boys, but not really that pally with the girls? And then you had to make that extra effort, be like, oh, like, you know, I'll pick up that light and get it or sit with them. And you felt that extra need to be more involved, to be, you know, more inclusive.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. It was nice to know as to how these women had got an entry in FTI in an area which was earlier not open for women, and thus completely opening new window to our society. Now, moving on, we would like to talk to Sakshi Gulati. She is also an alumni, and she has also done the same course which Parvati ma'am had done long back. That was in direction and script writing, screenplay writing. So I will ask the same question to you, Sakshi. What prompted you to enter in this area and taking a decision that you will be studying in FTI and doing a course in direction?
Actually, I got entry to filmmaking through media education. My school used to hold filmmaking workshops, and that exposed me to consider filmmaking as a career option. So after that, I did mass communication. I worked for a few years, and then I got reminded of FTI through our senior Vandana Kohli, right? She used to teach in my college. So from there, we got to know of FTI, and I naturally realized that maybe writing is my forte, and I decided to head to FTI.
Okay, what kind of support you got from your family or your friends and otherwise your peers, whether it was a comfortable thing to get into that area or there were some kind of obstructions or some kind of discouragement which you would have received from other people?
Actually, it was very, very hard on the family front because apart from my mother, my family has been very conservative. So I remember this incident the moment they found out that I want to do filmmaking. Some random relative from Amritsar is calling and saying, "Arey, bachchi ko itni gandi field mein dal rahe ho, kaise hoga tumhara?" And my mother had to fight all of it off because somehow being in media was not the right thing for a proper girl to be in. So a lot of resistance had to come in. And after that, you know, after you resist and you make films, आपको फिर अपने आप को ये भी प्रूव करना पड़ता है that you take me seriously. You know?
Yeah, the same thing that
Yeah.
Natasha was pointing out.
Yeah. And not just inside the institute, among your peers, because your peers have taken up far more conventional jobs. So that used to be an added pressure that now you have chosen a field which your conservative family doesn't like. So
Yeah.
you have to prove yourself even harder.
Yeah. Thank you, Sakshi. Now I will move on to Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, who has been instrumental in getting everything done as far as this program is concerned. So, Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, I would also like to know the same thing. How it happened that you decided that you should study in FTI and should make a career in filmmaking?
So I come from a generation where I was in college from 92 to 95. If you look at the Indian state or the socio-cultural, from the social cultural perspective, I am the generation which saw the transition from the public-based broadcaster to the satellite television and MTV. And in 1995, when I was graduating from economics honors, I really wanted to probe into the creative industries, but with no idea of what creative industries would mean. And at that point, my father suggested that if you want to learn the craft, go to the best institution that is possibly there. At that point in time, FTII had launched a fascinating course and a very much needed program, which was production management for film and TV. And looking at the world around me, I thought, the best institution and the most progressive course, this is the place I should be. So it was quite a seamless journey of entry. But when I landed in FTII, then the realization dawned that maybe the course was in place, but probably the industry may not be in place to accept women in such a role. So this is, my 2 cents of that experience.
Yeah.
And in fact, my parents were very supportive and extremely proud that I would be learning from the masters.
Yeah. So really, I mean, though it's not a comfortable thing for anybody to move forward in life and to do the things which one would like to do, but certainly you did it, and now you are motivating so many other people to take the same course. Now again, moving on to you, Sakshi. Once you were there in FTI, and even before FTI, I have come to know that you are doing something or the other in the industry, whether it's filmmaking or film curating, film festival curating and all. And once you completed that course and you joined the industry, what all you have done? I also know that there's a huge body of work that you have done for the last 15, 20 years. But when you look back, the work that you have done during these 15 years, what would you like to tell us your experience of working in the film industry?
I think after working in diverse parts of the industry, what you realize here is that, especially when you're a woman, being in the mainstream industry is actually the hardest part. Breaking that through is the hardest part, because there's a very strange assumption where women directors will not get paid as much and will not get higher budgets. I mean, it's historic. There are films like Wonder Woman where companies did not even sign contracts with the directors thinking कि ये film नहीं चलेगी. So they had to pay twice and thrice the
But
amount.
these are the stereotypes. Obviously, we
And
know
you
that
know-
these stereotypes are there. So how did you manage breaking these stereotypes?
I think I've gone two-way with this. The first thing is to actually fight it out. You might have to accept the fact that yes, there will be places where you will be paid less, but you might have to fight it out, and that actually means that can range from being having perseverance and sometimes having a screaming match if need be.
Yeah.
But you have to make the space and accept the fact that the field is not going to be even. You might have to fight it. The other alternative which you have is to go for documentary filmmaking. Go for independent filmmaking where you at least get the freedom to make the kind of films you want to make.
Yeah. And I've come to know that you have been making a lot of documentaries, as you mentioned just now. And the latest film on which you are working on is based on in Telangana and all. Can you tell something more to the audience as to which is that latest project that is in your hand, why you have taken it up, and what all you want to communicate by taking up this kind of feature come documentary project?
My latest project is a feature-length film. It's called Chalbadi. It's a story of an old couple. It's a couple in their 70s who are trying to bring people back to their village, which has been abandoned by everybody. So while they take efforts to bring people back to the village, we revisit the history of the village and figure out the impact of the Naxal political violence on the lives of ordinary indigenous communities in India. So as I came across that idea, and I got attached to the idea because displacement is endemic to certain communities in this country, whether it's the Adivasis, whether it's Bengalis during partitions, whether it's Punjabis during partitions. So displacement had come endemic to me as a Punjabi person, and I wanted to explore what it means to lose your house, what it means when your address stops existing, where I cannot go and say I live in so-so place. So keeping that as an emotional fulcrum, I want to explore the idea of what violence and trauma does to a community, what displacement does to a community. So that is what is the context of the entire film.
Thank you, Sakshi. Now moving on to Parvati ma'am. Parvati ji, once you came out from FTI, what did you decide that what you will be doing in your career? And once you started making an endeavor in the area of filmmaking, what all you did in your initial years, what kind of experiences you encountered with, and whether you decided to go to the mainstream cinema or you opted out to do something else?
Well, you see, when I came from the institute, I knew that I was a specimen by myself. So there were quite a number of offers I had from the industry itself. They said, oh, women director hai, to uske kuch marketability hai. I'm like a specimen by a brand myself. But the offers I got were not very comfortable for me, and my idea of filmmaking is quite different. And I respect that content and the media itself. I mean, to me, it's just not a money-making device. I mean, I wanted to be serious about it. And so very tactfully, I mean, I avoided those standard offers because that's not me. I'm not very comfortable in having the kind of romantic scenes of a hero and heroine running around the tree and singing songs and you know what was happening, the formula didn't work. And I had a number of offers, and the first couple of years I made a number of films for corporate organizations and for the state governments. I mean, I belong to two pre-states at the same time. Everybody adopted me, so I was fine. I got it from everywhere. I got into academics. I taught in a number of the institutes. I mean, in Bangalore, in Madras, Chennai, that is. And so, I mean, I was myself very busy. And then it just so happened the Children's Film Society wanted a good director. And believe me, Mrs. Nandini Satpathy, who was the Minister of INB, and she was the chairman. So some of the others, she had me ferreted out, and we had an interview, and there were a number of candidates who applied, but then I was selected because, you know, in the institute also, I had made a film for children, which I think was the only children's film. And I made just a little digress from here. When I was a student, Swami Chidmayananda had come to the institute, and seeing me as the only one girl around, he looked at me and gave me a kind of a command. He said, you do something which is inspiring, enlightening and entertaining at the same time for the young minds. And I made that into a kind of a blend. And I joined the Students' Film Society as a director. Then I rose to be the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Producer, the Director for International Festival, etc. And I think I did my humble bit, and all the movies I made has made its impact, and it is still very relevant because the content was good. I mean, I never compromised on quality. I was making absolutely a perfect commercial type of cinema with my government type of funding and background. And that was that.
I was reading about you, and then I came to know that you got some lucrative offers as soon as you came out from FTI, but you opted out. You did not decide to take up those offers. Why did you do that?
No, those are the kind of offers which says, you know, here's a blank check. I know it's very scary. And she must be doing a lot of underwater photography. But I know there were sharks even on land. So I wasn't comfortable doing that. Because that's not me. That was not what attracted me to this medium. So most likely I backed it because that's not me. And I would have been out very fast. And blank checks is something I don't believe in, you know, because they might be blank and they might not.
Right. Thank you, Parvati ma'am. Now moving on to Nitasha again. Nitasha, since you have been into cinematography, and as we all have known that you have been doing the underwater photography, so can you tell us something, your experience while working in this industry, or any such experience or any such anecdote that you would like to share with us all?
Yeah, sure. I feel like coming back to what ma'am was saying, that the idea of that thing that if you go to a film institute means that, oh, there's only mainstream, is something that I feel like is something that the institute is not really pushes you to do. You know, because you go in there and you're watching world cinema. We don't even see Bollywood films when we are in the institute. So your entire idea of like, yeah, you grow up around mainstream, but you get so enlightened to be like how to tell a story in the best possible way that suits you, and you're doing something that you're passionate about, right? So that's why underwater is something that like I always loved the water, and I started diving like while I was still in the institute. And I always remember like when I was diving, it's such a holistic experience that I always felt that because I was so used to always having the camera with me, that something was missing while I was still there, that I needed something there as well. And I wanted to show that world to everybody. Like whenever I came out of diving, it's the same kind of passion I felt when I first held the camera. So it was just putting both of them together and telling those stories in the best possible way, which just suits me and it's more me, you know. So that's how underwater.
So you would have got a different experience when you were shooting this Coral Woman.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about that?
Coral Woman was a very interesting experience because Coral Woman is about, like, India actually has a really long coast, but none of us really know much about the coast and what, like, you only know Goa. because that's how tourism has sold it. And Kerala, but like not for the water, like the backwaters, but for the ocean, because there's so much industrialization that has happened all around our coast. And so this film was very interesting because I've dived all over the world, and India was one place where like not dived really around the mainland. And that's when when you discover what's really there was very interesting to see like everything changes, and there's so much. I mean, it's a huge coast, so there's a lot to discover. But because we have so much industrialization, we've just ruined it all around. Which could have been just there's not only Goa, there are a lot of other places.
Yeah, and we all have watched Satyamev Jayate. I think even people of this generation, they would have watched, and at that point of time, it was a very popular and a very much watched program. So, what all you did in Satyamev Jayate?
So Satyamev Jayate, the whole way the show worked, like you see the show as the big part when you're in the studio with Amir Khan and everything, but the research part is where they actually go and if you're shooting a specific like topic like police reforms or rape victims, then you're like going and getting as many stories that are available there by the production house of like suppose there are 12 stories. So you're going to the 12 different places and shooting the 12 stories and bringing it back. And then the one or two that are going to be in the studio are selected, and then you go back and shoot a little bit more of that, and that's what like the little snippets that you see that come on the thing, the backstory of where they are in their home and everything. Those like we were shooting those and everything. So not in the studio, but all this work which is outside the studio.
Thank you, Natasha. Now moving on again to Parvati Menon ma'am. Parvati ji, I mean during these 60 years of your career, you have been doing a lot of things in filmmaking. But when you look back all these 60 years, what would you think?
You're making me sound very antique.
No, you're not. You are an asset to the society, to India. So during all these years, when you look back, what are the most memorable memories that you have working in the film industry?
Well, for one thing, I think I brought the films for children, young minds, and youth particularly to a new standard. And I think India became a known center. Then I brought the international film festivals right from 1979 onwards. I've had a number of co-productions with Russia and other countries. I've been a part of many juries and international juries and chaired some of them. And I was also a resource person, especially for Southeast Asia. And so I think in my own way, I contributed to the genre known as children's cinema or cinema for the youth. And some of them are still relevant because the content was contemporary. And especially my film 3 which I made for young school leavers and college entrants to discover what it is to be a young Indian. I shot it right from Jaisalmer up to Kanyakumari, 3 guys cycling and discovering what it is to be India. I thought it has made its mark, and even today it runs houseful whenever it is shown. And for the past few years I've been here in Delhi, in Gurgaon, and I have reinvented myself to be an author. And my 2 recent books.
Yeah. Please tell us about the books that you have written recently.
Yeah, my 2 recent books are, one is The Devlali Days, and which is an absolute fun book. And second one, which has just come this week, it is known as The Two Brothers. It's a family time, The Two Brothers. It's a narrative biography of my paternal grandfather, who was Chechu Gopalan Nair, who wrote many books which are still in print even after 100 years. He was the deputy collector of Malabar, and his elder brother was a famous Sir C. Shankar Nair, who resigned from the Viceroy's Council during the Jallianwala Bagh as a protest.
I can show this book to the audience. This is a book which is published very, very recently. I think this month
week.
only, this week only, which Parvati Menon ma'am has written, and this is. Yeah, this has been published as part of the Amrit Mahotsav, the 75 years of India's independence. And in this, she has written about her grandfather and the brother of her grandfather. So it's like going into your roots and digging out something which is important not only for that individual who is going into the roots of the family, but for understanding your society better, for understanding your country better, and the kind of contribution which those people, our forefathers, have done for the sake of this country is really interesting to note. Kudos to you, Parvati ji, for writing
what
this.
I wanted to emphasize in this is, it is up to us young Indians to know what the heritage of this country is and how to build it up.
Yeah, definitely, which is what I was saying, that we all must know about our history, about our heritage, and Parvati ji is doing it even after 60 years of completing in career. No, I mean 60 years, obviously you are a young person, we all get inspiration. I mean, for these people who are of 20 years of age, they find it difficult to work like, many more people will find it difficult.
I am from Jurassic Park then.
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, this is an inspiration for us all, that there are people like you who are working so hard for adding something to the creativity and for serving the society. See, we all should get inspiration from you.
Thank you.
So, Sakshi, when you look back 10 years, 15 years, whatever work you have done, what all you have learnt, what all you, all such work you have done that you feel that you have done something good, and then what more is to be done?
I think among whatever kind of work that I have done, the work which is closest to me has actually been engaging in film education. I've been taking filmmaking workshop for children and young adults for the past 15 years, and working with 10 to 18 year olds as they make their films has been the most enriching experience for me.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of creativity, but I could sense the impact filmmaking and understanding cinema can make on children and young adults, and in terms of how they think about the world.
Yeah.
Coming as blank slates, coming with preconceived notions, the moment these kids would see cinema and understand how meaning is being made from films,
Yeah.
that is when their thought process would open.
Yeah, so definitely the kind of students who are sitting here, you are thinking about them and you are nurturing them and will try to do this, that they also become good filmmakers like you, which is definitely the ultimate goal of education. Yeah.
And also, it's the idea is also not to keep cinema in the realm of formal education. When we did workshops, we took workshops to rural India, to villages in Nepal, to villages in Amarkantak, to Bhopal, where kids and marginalized communities would not have access to. They were not only becoming, earning opportunities for them. I mean, they could become wedding photographers in their villages, but it was also an opportunity where they could see themselves in front of camera, and that is empowering.
Yeah. Thank you, Sakshi. Definitely, this is very important. We organize this kind of event, this kind of show, only to reiterate, only to reaffirm our commitment to women empowerment. And we are really happy that we have in this show such kind of women who have shown a path and which can we get inspiration from. Now, moving on to Gauri ma'am again. Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, you have also been, as we were talking to Sakshi, you did this course from FTI, then you were making films, then you became a researcher, you became an academic person, and now you are also training to hundreds of students into filmmaking, and simultaneously you are doing this kind of job wherein you are writing a book, compiling everything about FTI women alumni. You are also curating the film festivals. So what all you feel, I mean, whatever work you have done after coming out from FTI, what is your assessment about your work when you look back?
Well, I think it's been a very interesting journey, but it's also been a journey where I think most of us will agree, where you had to open new doors, because the doors that were already there had some caveat of being a team member. So when I passed out of FTI, my course was very new to the industry, and B, I decided to base myself in Delhi, which I think at that point in time may not have been such a preferred choice for many others. I had my own reasons to do so. in my journey, I also understood in the initial 10-12 years when I was a freelancer that it's very difficult to, source work as a freelancer. And I'm talking about the mid 1990s and the early 2000s, where there were no, there are no structural possibilities. Work was found mostly on networks, and this has been a common thing with women and any industry, that it's taken us about a few, let's say a decade at least, to understand that a lot of informal networks operate, where work gets generated or the possibility opportunities come in. So I did as much as I could. And another aspect of being a woman, and if you choose to have a family, is that there are some familial responsibilities. So I moved into education because I had a very young child, and my work in the media and film space was had an erratic schedule. And for me, it was important at that point to have a routine which allows my child to grow in an environment where there's more systemized grooming. And I walked into education and then realized that in film education, that a lot of people who are on the other side may not have experienced the grit, the real on floor tension or crisis on a film shoot. And so I kept, I continued to be a part of education and also continued to be connected to the practice, because one thing that the institute imbibes in all of us is, and as we can see with Parvati ma'am as well, is the the sense of the continuum, continuing to kind of generate ideas and implement them. And so film education became a space where I was able to integrate the practice with the theory. And I also have been festival director for the IWAD Asian Women's Film Festival, which is a full throttle film festival in
And
itself.
you're also part of the this SIFI also for all
Yes,
3 years.
Yes, and part of the Cineast International Film Festival, and that allows my students also to, to really look at theory and practice as one whole rather than segregating them.
Yeah.
And I wish that the point at which I had graduated, if there was more mentorship in mainstream industry or even in independent production, because you don't find the mentors for women graduates, especially for people who come out in the technical domain. And sometimes I really wish that there's more mentorship for those who graduate from film schools and media schools, especially women. And already I can see that in the audience, there are more women, more girls than boys. And I'd be very curious to know as an academician now, that how many women continue to be in this domain, in comparison to the boys who are in the house.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that mentorship is very, very important, because media education is not simply confined to classroom wherein you go to the class as a teacher and take a lecture, but then grooming of the students, making them learn new things, as you said, getting into creative ideas, new ideas, discussing them, and obviously when it comes to filmmaking, whatever ideas you have to translate those ideas into a film, whatever kind of film you conceive. Now, at this point, I would like to move to the students who are sitting in the audience here in Studio 62, and I would like to take up questions from you all. Yeah. Yeah, Tanvi.
Hello. I want to ask a question from all the filmmakers, as I am also one of those aspiring ones. मुझे ये पूछना सवाल दैट जस्ट लाइक अभी आपने ये कहा कि ये जो प्रोफेशन है वो मेल डोमिनेटेड ज़्यादा है, वुमेन को यहाँ पे रिकग्निशन मतलब चांसेस पहले कम मिलते थे, लेकिन मैम आज के में ऐसा होता है कि अभी भी रिकग्निशन शायद कम मिलता है. लाइक women filmmakers का मैंने अक्सर देखा है that their films get recognized at international film festivals and all that, but they are still less familiar with the masses as compared to the male ones. So if I want to be a filmmaker, so I want to be recognized in the masses. So what's your opinion on this, that why it is so? People say that they don't make mass films.
Who would like, Parvati ma'am, you would like to respond to this?
So you'd like to be popular with the masses?
Yeah.
You'd make masterpiece films,
Yeah.
commercial cinema.
Yeah. So people say that
You should
a
become.
woman can't make it.
No. So I mean, what you have learned in a very serious way, and what are the requirements in the commercial industry may be varying. So you'll have to compromise, adjust, and go with the tide.
Yeah, any other student who would like to ask a question? Yeah. You would like to ask something? No? Okay. So, moving on, I would like to know further from you, Gauri ma'am. As it comes to filmmaking, what exactly is your approach as far as we were talking about ideas or about the concept? What would you like to see to accomplish through your whole filmmaking process?
Sir, so are we talking about students who learn filmmaking?
Yeah.
I think film education is as much intrinsic as it is extrinsic. I think film school environments ask us to probe within, and therefore, again, I'm adding the element of a more gender balance in terms of training, because women, or let's say, because we're making it binary, but let's say non-male members of society bring their own gaze to life.
Yeah.
So even the most simplest of incidents, experiences, when we look at it from a non-male perspective, it brings out a kind of diversity and inclusivity, which also creates further dissemination of inclusivity itself. So I think film education today and for the future generations should really address this this aspect of honing the skills of storytellers from all identities.
Yeah. So thank you, Gauri ma'am. She said that this honing of the skills of the students and training them to filmmaking is really important. Sakshi, would you like to add something to what Gauri ma'am said?
I think the one thing one should pick up from film education and studying in a formal film environment is how to fail. This is this one thing which I have noticed, and I've studied in two media institutes back to back, is that people get terrified of failing because it's a perception based industry. If we are considered a bad filmmaker, it is going to last with us for a few years. But if we will not fail in our film education here, and if we will not take risks, we are going to be in a bigger soup when we reach Bombay or when we reach our professional field, because there forgiveness doesn't come easy. So the only thing I think a student has to brace themselves up is for failure. Take as many risks as possible and fail as gloriously as possible.
Yeah. So this is really an encouragement, I believe, not a discouragement, that if you fail, then that will pave a way for you to have success in life. And this is particularly in terms of filmmaking. Yeah, Parvati ma'am.
Can I just add a little point here? You see, we are very lucky to be here today talking about whatever we've achieved. Let me tell you, there have been so many from the institute who've just faded away.
Yeah.
For want of mentorship, for want of a better placement, opportunity, or whatever they did probably didn't click. There are so many. There's a big gamble in this life,
Yeah.
and you have to be prepared when you take this life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a gamble, but then it is all your performance, your hard work, your persistence.
Very hard.
Yeah. So that's there. I mean,
Women have to work harder.
yeah, that's true.
May I just say?
Yeah, yes.
Well, I just wanted to say, we women seem to be always in a position where we have to work harder to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And luckily for us, many of us were far superior than our other friends.
Yeah.
And so we've survived. So it's very important.
Yeah, that's true. So moving on to Natasha, what all you have planned for your future endeavors, what all projects you have in mind, as far as the kind of filmmaking and the kind of camera that you would like to do in future?
Kind of camera. Oh my god, it changes as we are talking.
Yeah.
Because cameras are like, you're shooting on your phone also now, you can make a film. I think it's the kind of films. Like, I feel like I've reached that stage that I want to make a film that has some kind of impact in what I believe in. Because you're always fighting to, this shouldn't be like that, this shouldn't be like that, but what are you really doing about it? Because everybody has very strong opinions, but are you really able to do something about it? So I think I'm more now going towards films where I feel like the message that the film has is what I believe in. So I feel that that really is important for me to be able to do, because you choose something you doing that you love, and to keep loving it, you need to keep be true to it. So I feel that, and coming back to like women in coming in, I feel like the technical part, like the having a community and be able to reach out to it is very like, now we like, I think last 4 years ago, a bunch of women cinematographers got in touch with each other and started this group on WhatsApp called IWCC, which is Indian Women's Collective, like a cinematography collective. And we started off with like just about 15, 16, 17, now we're 90 of us there. And it's such a, I was like hoping this was there like when I just came out of the institute. So I feel really envious of the girls or women coming out now to have this kind of a, like I got Coral Woman through IWCC, where somebody messaged there saying, like Fauzia ma'am messaged there saying somebody's looking for an underwater. So a lot of work, and also the communities like that, like I'm on a shoot, it could be 3 a.m. I'm having a problem with some kind of lighting thing. I'll write it on that group. Somebody will message within seconds. My like male like colleagues message me, hey जरा अपने वो group में message करिए, पूछ कि ये light कहाँ मिलेगी. It's literally a network like you. Where do I get this? It's auto, like it's such a community, and I feel like this needs to happen more with like every field. And like we're lucky enough, like now it started with the cinematography women, and it does like I think, I mean, you also got in touch with a lot of us through that. So it's a really, it feels like you're part of something which you feel more like positive about others who are trying to come this side.
Yeah, so Natasha has pointed out towards a very important aspect of filmmaking in 2023, wherein we have internet to our help, we have all networking, social media to our help, and we can do a lot of such things as Natasha pointed out with the help of networking. And this is really a lesson, really a learning for the young people, that they can also enter into filmmaking, and a lot of such help in the digital space is already available. Anyone? Yeah.
Add to what Natasha is saying. So there is, I'd like to add to what Natasha is saying. So there is the Indian Women Cinematographers Collective, which is IWCC, and there's also WCC, which is Women in Cinema Collective, which has also been organized by one of our seniors, Beena Paul, and a lot of her batchmates and younger people like Fauzia Fatima. And again, these interventions clearly indicate that there is a need for, again I'd say non-male, because male-female today becomes very restricting. But these are very important interventions to create that mentorship and to create a forum where people can at least understand this domain as they enter it as professionals, as trained professionals.
That's very well taken. Yeah, there is a question. Yeah.
I have a question with Natasha ma'am. Can you explain a time? Can you like there's as a cinematographer, a lot of time people disagreed with your artistic vision. So how you deal with it as a female cinematographer?
When you say people, you mean like the director or like people watching the film?
Director.
Okay.
And the people जिनके लिए हम output बनाते हैं और फिर वो disagree करते हैं.
Yeah, I think with the director, it's very important to be on the same wavelength. When you start thinking that the film is more about the visuals only, is the biggest mistake I feel as a cinematographer we make. Because we are so think that, because we work really hard on a shoot, so somehow you feel like you deserve that kind of call. But you have to realize that a director has a lot more invested emotionally in the film, and has a longer relationship with the film. So the minute your respect for each other is there, automatically you'll see the film comes out in the same, you're both working together. Because it's all about ego. It happens like that on all shoots. The minute you can notice it could be the director's ego or the cinematographer's ego, where you thinking you are better than the other, is when you see the film will never work. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, understanding and work on that, like in pre-production of like what your visual style is. Everything needs to be on the same level, and you need to have that much respect is there, like in any field where you respect each other, and that's how respect's the main form. It's a relationship. The director and the cinematographer are in a relationship, and respect is the most important part about it. The minute you lose that is when you'll see everything will go
Yeah, that's true. Natasha has pointed out a very valid point because film is ultimately a collective art. So unless the whole team works in tandem, good result is not possible to come. Yeah, Parvati.
Yeah, I just want to add, the filmmaking is a teamwork. Everybody has to be equally invested in it, interest-wise, time-wise, and they have to do their best. One cannot try to outshine the other.
So with this, we come towards the end of this program. It was really nice to hear to all these versatile ladies, experienced ladies who have really done something really good for the society, for the younger generation as far as the filmmaking is concerned, or as far as contributing film education to the younger crowd, so that more and more young people come to the filmmaking, because still, if you go by the number, still there is a dearth of filmmakers in the society, and particularly whatever increase has been there for the last 60 years, despite this, not many women filmmakers are still there around. So there is a need of more filmmakers, more women filmmakers, so that there is a better representation of society, the issues can be picked up in a better manner, and more creative content can be there, whether it is related to documentaries or related to fiction, and the technology is there, as we have been talking about, to our help, whether it's about the networking of the filmmakers, whether it's about the platform where we can showcase our work. I mean, this OTT has brought a tremendous change in the situation. Till 10, 20 years back, it was not possible, even if you make a film, where to project that film. And then, not only to project your film, how can you make money by showing your film. So all those things are now available. So I believe that there's a better future ahead in the area of filmmaking. Thank you everybody. Thank Parvati ma'am, thank Sakshi Gulati, thank Natasha, and thank Dr. Gauri to be here and helping us in creating this program, which will be an asset for all the future generations also, because this is a document which will always there in the digital space. Thank you all to be part of this.